Okay, so there's something pretty important that I want to talk about today, and that is taking personal responsibility. So I noticed that but I also am noticing like some of my friends and people around me and their relationships kind of do this thing too. I noticed that when I was in my relationships, one was my marriage, and even after my marriage, when I was going through my divorce, and then the other one was with my ex-girlfriend, and then when our relationship ended, I realized that there is this ability to blame the other person and finger point. And I feel like this is something that is done inside of relationships in addition to when relationships end. We have this ability, or I had this ability to kind of point the finger and blame the people that I was with, not entirely absolving myself of responsibility, but kind of cherry picking the responsibility that I played, and not actually like naming my responsibility. But again, just kind of umbrella captioning saying, oh yes, I played my part too. So I realized one day I was on Instagram scrolling, and I realized that myself and a lot of people I know follow accounts of like life coaches or relationship experts, and people post things that kind of support our feelings or our thoughts about a situation. And so it's easy to kind of see these posts and say, oh, yep, that was done to me. That was done in this relationship. That was done in that relationship. And it kind of gives us this way of excusing potentially our own behavior or actions inside of a relationship or even outside of the relationship. So again, I was scrolling on Instagram and I came across a post by the holistic psychologist. And there were a few slides, and I'm reading the caption and then I'm scrolling through each of the slides on her post. And it was so easy to read something and say, oh yeah, that was done in my childhood, and then swipe, and oh yeah, that was done in this relationship, and swipe, and oh yeah, that was done in that relationship. And then I swiped again, and I had this moment where I paused, and in the back of my head, it was like, Steph, you've done that. And I was like, oh shit. So I swiped back, and I started swiping again and asking myself, is this something that I did in the relationship? Instead of pointing the finger and blaming other people, not entirely absolving myself of responsibility, but certainly cherry picking where I took responsibility. And as I'm swiping and I'm saying, yeah, I've done a lot of this stuff, it was that moment of realization when I said, holy crap, like I need to take personal responsibility for myself and my actions and how I showed up or didn't show up inside and outside of the relationships. So now I feel like I've turned into this like taking responsibility monster. Like everywhere I'm like, how can I take responsibility for this? No, I don't mean that you have to take 100% responsibility for potentially a relationship ending. But what I do mean is genuinely looking at ourselves and saying, where could I have shown up a little bit better? Where could I have stopped pointing the finger and blaming and looking for the things my partner was not doing right or not doing for me, but where maybe I wasn't showing up as my best self? So that was a huge lesson brought to you by something I saw on Instagram. But it's true. How can we look at ourselves? How can we take responsibility? How can we not absolve ourselves and finger point and blame other people for what they're not doing for us? But instead, how can we show up? Because at the end of the day, we are the only people who can change ourselves. We are the only people who can show up for ourselves, and we are the only people who can choose to be different. We can't expect someone else to be different or someone else to change. And we can always speak our needs and tell people how to love us or what we might need in a relationship, but we cannot put the expectation on them to change. So here's your challenge. Where can you show up in your relationships? Be it friendships, relationships with your parents, with your kids, with your significant other. Where can you show up and take a little responsibility? When you find yourself wanting to point the finger and blame or accuse someone or think that somebody is not doing enough for you, turn it around and ask maybe how you can show up a little bit different in this situation. So that's all I have for you. Take responsibility, show up for yourself. We are 100% responsible for our own selves, our actions, our thoughts, our feelings. And we are the only ones who can change ourselves in a situation, even if somebody else doesn't change. So that's all I have for you. As always, fill your tank with love and light. Make sure you are filled with joy and energy. And once you do that, go share your love and light with the world. Really quick, I have to show you. I'm in Palm Springs with Jackson. We're enjoying our time, about to head to the pool, but I thought I would drop you guys a little message, a little reminder, a little lesson if you need it. And until the next time, be good and be safe. Thank you so much for listening.